Even though it's been 9 years, I still occasionally see silly takes about Captain America versus Iron Man in Captain America Civil War. So I made a video about it. The question of who is right between Cap and Tony in Avengers Civil War has 2 parts. The Sokovia Accords are separate from whether or not Cap was right to defend Bucky from Tony. He absolutely was, by the way, and I'll get to that in a moment, but first let me get the Accords out of the way. The childhood comic book fan in me is against the Accords because he's a child and therefore stupid. He likes the idea of being a superhero and fighting crime while having a normal life and dating inexplicably hot women. At the time of the original Civil War comic, I was Team Cap because, as I said, I like the format of the independent superhero story. I guess I'm mainly thinking about Spider-Man here. If Spidey's swinging around fighting bad guys at night, but going to school and dealing with all the usual teenage or young adult nonsense in the daytime, then that's a Spider-Man story. If Peter works for the government, then that's something else now. That's not what Spider-Man's supposed to be. The occasional team up with the Avengers or X-Men, great, but working for the government, no thanks. But this is me thinking as a fan who doesn't want the books to change. If I put myself in the headspace of someone who lived in that world, I guess I'm 60-40 Team Iron Man, provided that people aren't being conscripted into super armies. There's a lot of details that would need to get ironed out. What's the degree of oversight the UN would have? Or how much latitude would the Avengers have? Superpowered people need their rights protected too.
In fact, Tony, you chose to do that. If we sign this, we surrender our right to choose. What if this panel sends us somewhere we don't think we should go? What if there's somewhere we need to go and they don't let us?
But having oversight over people that can throw mountains is probably a good idea. As far as the movie goes, it's basically the same thing. There are arguments on either side, but I'm still pretty much 60-40 Team Iron Man. Up until this moment.
Peace.
Everybody get down!
This guy kills this guy and frames this guy, which pisses off this guy, and everything gets real muddy. We are no longer talking about just the merits of the Accords, which is all anyone in this movie was doing up until this bombing. Now we've got people's emotions tied into this. Black Panther is not on Tony's side because he believes in the Accords. I don't even think he'd be subject to them. He's only there to kill Bucky. But does Bucky deserve to get killed? Well, no, because he didn't do the bombing, but he did kill Tony's parents. Or did he? At the end of Civil War, T'Challa says this.
I almost killed the wrong man. Vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me.
He was there, listening in on the whole exchange between Zemo, Cap, Tony, and Bucky.
You killed innocent people in Vienna just to bring us here.
He heard all about how Bucky killed Tony's parents. Yet he recognizes that Bucky's a victim and decides to help him.
Your friend and my father, they were both victims. If I can help one of them find peace.
Not only that, he doesn't even kill Zemo. He lets the US put him in prison. So many people are being way too emotional about this third act. Cap wrong for this. He killed his parents, son. Fuck you. This actually falls in line with this thing I do where I point out how people fail to understand the media they consume. At the beginning of the movie, we see Bucky being defrosted. He's then given electroshock therapy. All of this is conditioning him to be susceptible to mind control. A trigger has been planted in his mind to force him into compliance. Once these words are spoken, he can't help but to obey and be ready to comply. At the facility in Berlin, when Zemo starts speaking the trigger words, Bucky frantically tries to break out. He desperately wants to stop Zemo from finishing the sequence of words because he knows he'll be helpless if he does. But it's too late, and there he is, helpless and ready to comply. When Bucky wakes up with his arm trapped, he asks Sam and Cap, "What did I do?"
What did I do?
He has no immediate memory of what happened. Maybe it'll come to him later. He did say at the end of the movie that he remembers all of the people he killed.
Do you even remember them? I remember all of them.
After the big fight, the Wakandans put him back in the fridge until they figure out how to fix him. It took all the advanced technology of Wakanda to deprogram him. Look how much he's struggling with this.
It's not gonna work.
Rozwiedź. 5, 9. You are free.
All of this means that Bucky had no control over his actions when he killed any of the people he killed, including Tony's parents. The real responsible party here, the actual murderers, are this guy and whoever his superiors are. The people who brainwashed Bucky in the first place. If you don't accept this fact, then you have fundamentally misunderstood all of the movies Bucky was in before Infinity War. Now, some of you will say, come on, man, what if it was your parents? You wouldn't try to kill Bucky? Of course I would. What Tony's feeling in this moment is completely understandable. But the fact that someone's purely emotional response is relatable doesn't make that purely emotional response correct. I could just as easily say, Cap and Bucky are like brothers. You wouldn't defend your brother? And you might say, well, that's also an emotional response, but no, Cap has had time to sit with this information. Cap knows that this man has been brainwashed. He knew that from Winter Soldier. He knows, as any logical person would, that Bucky is a victim too.
It wasn't him, Tony. Hydra had control of his mind. Move! It wasn't him!
Look at Guardians of the Galaxy. Drax wants to kill Ronan because Ronan killed his family.
Ronan murdered my wife, Ovette, and my daughter, Camaria. He slaughtered them where they stood, and he laughed!
Then they kill Ronan, and Drax says this.
Your wife and child shall rest well, knowing that you have avenged them.
Yes. Of course, Ronan was only a puppet. It's really Thanos I need to kill.
Thanos ordered it, Ronan did it, so Thanos is responsible. But is Ronan? Yes, because Ronan was of sound mind and body when he carried out these orders. Bucky isn't just some goon from a goon squad. He isn't just some hitman. He was stripped of all free will, of all independent thinking, and of all humanity by Hydra. He was a bullet in a gun, an arrow in a quiver. He was like a robot forced to follow the programming. And if Tony had enough time to sit with this information, if Cap had told him earlier, maybe he would have been able to do what T'Challa did and realize who the real enemy is and who really deserves to get punished. Tony may have been right about the Accords, but Cap was completely in the right to defend Bucky because Bucky was completely innocent. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, and for anyone who would say, I don't see how Bucky could be innocent when he's actually the one that physically killed Tony's parents, rewind the video and watch it again.